Incredible. I want us to continue that discussion now with my guest who joined me in the last segment, Eric Eggers, who's the Vice President at the Government Accountability Institute. Eric, thanks again for staying over, and I know you understand hard break. Sorry I had to step in the last little bit. But now that we're here, let's go on. We've covered a lot about the transcript. What else about this stood out to you that just kind of jumped off the page?
I think that the fact that the House Oversight Committee has been able to pursue this, and that I think they're very serious about their work. I know not everyone that's on the committee is as serious, and so I think Democrats are quite honestly grandstanding and, mentioning the fact that Donald Trump was president when some of these interactions happened, more than asking hard questions about the nature of Joe Biden's involvement in Hunter Biden's business. And so I think there's some room to improve there. But I do think, you have to remember, Jody, we reported at the Government Accountability Institute about some of these business transactions and about Devon Archer specifically all the way back in 2018 in a book called Secret Empires. And we actually sent a researcher to Devon Archer's trial and watched the judge sort of issue a not guilty verdict and then saw that verdict be vacated by oversight. So we've been paying attention to this for a long time. So I applaud the fact that House Oversight members are now taking this very seriously. They're getting bank accounts. They're talking to witnesses. And so I think I'm encouraged for anybody that's paid attention to the idea of government corruption as we have done, and I know as you have done, that I think the fact that they're talking to the right people is a signal of positive things to come.
Great point. I want to play a clip for you and get your reaction to it. The Democrats, you're talking about them and them just kind of grandstanding with this, but they're trying to defend President Biden, saying that all the phone calls that he had with Hunter during these business meetings were nothing more than other just saying hello to his son. But Devon had an interview just yesterday with Tucker Carlson, and I'd like to play this clip and get your thoughts on it. Clip 5, please.
To be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful, though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff for anyone.
All right, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you couldn't say it any better. Whether the nature of the conversation was casual or not, the point is it was impactful and it got done what needed to get done with the business people they were trying to curry favor with and ultimately trying to get them to pay them. So, it's funny you say, oh, these are casual niceties, like the kind of talk you might hear on the golf course about the weather. Well, guess what else gets done on the golf course? A lot of business, and so I think people decide to do business with people because they're comfortable with them and they're impressed by the network. As you pointed out earlier, Jody, that's essentially what the Bidens were selling. They're selling a network. That's what Hunter Biden and Devon Archer were selling specifically. I mean, Devon Archer was not a guy who turned down an internship at Lloyd's of London. This is not a highly coveted asset on Wall Street. He's a guy who later would be convicted of defrauding a tribe in Oklahoma. So it's not like he had elite professional skills to bring to the table. What he had to bring to the table was he raised money for John Kerry, who, by the way, John Kerry's stepson had previously worked in business with Hunter Biden and Devon Archer. And even John Kerry's stepson, Christopher Hines, was so turned off by some of the nature of the business they were doing, he left. So I think you heard it exactly right from Devon Archer that what they were doing mattered.
All right, so, not only were they selling themselves, selling their influence, they were selling America out. I mean, how do you describe this president any other way than being compromised?
That's a great point, and it's, I think, the most important point. When something happens like the Chinese spy balloon floating across the country, and people wonder why was it allowed to float over the entire West Coast to East Coast route that it took? And why was it never shot down? Even though we now know that it flew over military industrial areas and it was able to gain intelligence on our stuff. We know that this is China's game plan. And so I think by cultivating these relationships with people that matter, it's called soft power. And so I think there's no other way to put it. But yeah, you have to wonder, if China was aggressive, would we make a move in America's interest, or does Joe Biden have other reasons to maybe take it easy on China?
Well, it's a frightening thing to consider all of this, Eric, and your insight that you've brought to the table today has been tremendous. We're grateful. What do you think, or what do you hope is going to come out of this whole investigation? We've got about a minute left.
Sure. Thanks, Jody. What I hope is that the House Oversight Committee will continue to do its work, that the remaining 6 bank accounts, they will be able to get those records, that the financial records that the IRS whistleblowers wanted to look at and then did look at, that those will be able to be brought together as well. And there's a phone number that's linked to Joe Biden that I think maybe those phone records can be triangulated. We match up those with things like the letter that he wrote to Devin Archer and correspond that with the timing of them launching their Chinese business enterprises. And we get to finally get the real picture of just how shady the Biden business dealings are.
Well, this is absolutely fascinating, and you look at the indictments of former President Trump coming out at just the same week, the day after all of this starts unfolding. You have to scratch your head about it all. Eric Eggers, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for all the work that you, the Government Accountability Institute, do as well. Thanks for joining us this evening.
My pleasure, Jody. Thank you so
friends,
much.
coming up, you bet. Coming up, we're going to dive back into the latest indictment of former President Trump and get an analysis from a former civil litigator who served in all 3 branches of the federal government. Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project will join me right after the break, so stick around. We'll be right back in just a moment.
For centuries, the Bible has inspired humanity and shaped the very world we live in. But how do we know this book is the Word of God and not merely the words of men?
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks explores the evidence of the Bible's inspiration and authority through some of the world's most respected biblical scholars.
We have essentially a dual authorship. So it's true to say that Paul wrote Romans. It's equally true to say that God wrote Romans.
He says, we saw this, and that sets the Bible apart from almost everything else in the ancient world and its religious pantheon of gods and goddesses.
The God Who Speaks is a feature-length documentary from the American Family Association. Available now at thegodwhospeaks.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Peck, host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, the home of happy parents and healthy teens on AFR.net. I serve as your expert guide to engage, equip, encourage, and empower you to navigate life's toughest issues with your teens. We explore health impacts and home strategies to create a safe space in an unsafe world. The Dr. Nurse Mama Show on AFR.net.
God has led Bishop E.W. Jackson to leave AFR and run for president. Our loss could be a blessing to the nation, but it leaves a hole in our programming. Well, here's our answer. He comes from the Emerald City. He's not a wizard, but some might call him a whiz. He brings a biblical perspective to things we're seeing in the world. He's a follower of Jesus and a leader among men. Coming soon, it's a Disciples View with Todd Herman. Weekdays at noon Central on American Family Radio.
G'day, this is Joel with The King Country, and I'm very aware that many of us have a friend or a neighbor or a loved one who struggles with substance abuse. And I want to pass on this message to you or to your friend. There is a way out.
I was finally engaged and ready to slow down, and the alcohol wasn't. I couldn't put it down. I heard her say over and over again that if you continue to drink, I'm leaving. And I just took it for granted until the one day that she actually left. I figured as long as I could stay drunk, I could put off the shame, the regret, and I felt no hope for me. Since coming to Teen Challenge, all of that has changed. I am here for a purpose, and God is going to use me for something. And with Jesus on my side, I'm finally going to be able to live a life that I can be proud of.
So if you or a loved one is ready to end an addiction, Adult and Teen Challenge can help. You can call them toll-free at 1-855-END-ADDICTION or visit them online at teenchallengeusa.org.
FRC celebrating 40 years with Congresswoman Lisa McClain.
In Congress, it's tough, and you get hit. You know, you get bombs thrown at you from all different sides, And at times, you have a tendency to get down. FRC approaches things in a very different way. It approaches it with a faith-based principle, in a faith-based manner, which is really lacking not only in Congress, but I would say in America today. FRC is an organization that provides an optimistic, hopeful, positive view of the future.
Welcome back to Washington Watch, and thank you, Lisa McClain from Michigan, for those kind words, celebrating FRC's 40th anniversary. It's an amazing, amazing ministry, and I can testify to the words that you just heard from Congresswoman Lisa McClain as well. I do hope that you'll be able to join us for our Pray Vote Stand Summit coming up in September. Again, learn more about it at prayvotestand.org. All right, we've got just a couple of hours ago, I'm sure you probably heard or have seen, but President Trump arrived at the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. to make his initial appearance in federal court after being indicted for the third time. And as expected, he pled not guilty to the 4 counts that he has been charged with. So the question is now, how is all this going to unfold? What does this mean? How did we even get to this point? And here to do some unpacking of all of this for us is Mike Davis. He's the founder of the Article 3 Project. He spent nearly 10 years as a civil litigator in Denver, and he also served in all 3 branches of our federal government. Mike, welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me back on.
Well, it's always an honor. So let's just get started with a little background, specifically regarding Jack Smith. What do we know about this special counsel?
Jack Smith is the political hitman who Democrats sent in to take out Republican presidential contenders, like Jack Smith did before 2016 with former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, a likely presidential or vice presidential candidate. Jack Smith was the head of Obama's public integrity section at the Justice Department at the time, and he brought these bogus corruption charges against then Governor McDonnell. He won a conviction and took him out of the presidential and vice presidential race before 2016. The Supreme Court ultimately reversed Jack Smith 8-0. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. It is very hard to have a criminal conviction overturned by the Supreme Court. It is nearly impossible for that to happen unanimously. But Jack Smith, the Democrat Scud missile launched to take out President Trump, managed to do this with Governor Bob McDonnell before 2016. And the Democrats, Biden, Garland, and Jack Smith are running the same play again for President Trump in 2024. They're trying to indict President Trump for various non-crimes. Non-crime of Alvin Bragg, indicting Trump for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim, the first indictment of a former president in U.S. history. Jack Smith waited 29 months after President Trump left office to indict President Trump for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act. Now Jack Smith, all of these with Merrick Garland and Joe Biden's greenlighting, has indicted President Trump, again, this time for the non-crime of a presidential candidate objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and twisting arms politically is allowed by the First Amendment. This is Democrat lawfare against President Trump because Democrats fear they cannot beat Trump on November 7th, 2024.
Wow. Well, what a historical background right there that you've laid out for us. It's so many things come to my mind while you're talking about this, Mike. I think of how in the world do people like Jack Smith, how do they get in the positions where they're in? And how do we reverse all this as a nation? We'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, what does this mean for our justice system in America? Where is all of this going, do you think?
I think President Obama changed everything when he politicized and weaponized the Justice Department with Eric Holder. They hired Jack Smith back then. Jack Smith's wife was a producer of Michelle Obama's documentary. Jack Smith's wife donated $1,000 to Obama's campaign, and voila, Jack Smith becomes the chief of the public integrity section at the Justice Department. And it's just part of a pattern by the Democrats, starting with Obama, to politicize and weaponize our justice system and our intel agencies to protect their friends and to go after their political enemies. We saw this in 2016 when Hillary Clinton got caught with her illegal home server with our nation's most classified secrets, hacked by our worst enemies, including probably Russia, and she destroyed this evidence in the face of congressional subpoenas. And so what did they do? They made up the Russian collusion hoax against President Trump. And so if this hacked material comes out from Russia before the 2016 campaign, Hillary and the Democrats can falsely claim that Trump was colluding with the Russians and running an intel operation on Hillary Clinton. In 2020, Joe Biden got caught with Hunter Biden's laptop from hell, evidencing the Biden's foreign bribery and corruption schemes, tens of millions of dollars to every single Biden except for the 5-year-old granddaughter who Joe Biden didn't acknowledge for 5 years until recently. So what did the Democrats do? They had 51 former intel officials corruptly lie and say that this was a Russian disinformation campaign, this Hunter Biden laptop. Got the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper, censored by big tech platforms. Got Americans censored for posting the story of the New York Post. And here we are again. In 2024, they're going to interfere with this election again. Our law enforcement and intel agencies are going to interfere in this election again by politicizing and weaponizing the justice system to go after Trump for non-crimes while they're covering up Biden's foreign bribery, Biden's corruption. He is clearly compromised as the president of the United States, and they're going to try to go after Trump and throw him in prison for his fight with Biden's librarians and other bureaucrats over records Trump is allowed to have and over disputing a presidential election.
Well, it's unbelievable what is unfolding, and this two-tiered system is just glaring its face at us anymore. It's no longer in hiding. It appears to have come out of the closet, so to speak, and is just pounding us, bulldozing down under us. And I'll get to that here in just a second, but I do want to say this as well. This indictment of this week, there's more to come. I mean, I'm from Georgia and have been following what's happening in Fulton County. I've been informed that they have now put barricades around the courthouse there, which would indicate that another indictment is on the way. And, they want to protect the courthouse from all these rioting conservatives or whatever. It's all theater, but nonetheless, that's happening. So there's more to come, right? Where does all this end for President
Trump?
Trump?
The issue. We have Jack Smith will bring another superseding indictment at some point and name the 6 alleged co-conspirators, maybe bring a seditious conspiracy claim against Trump to try to knock him out under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, a novel and bogus legal theory, but that's what the Democrats will try. You have, like you said, Fulton County DA Fani Willis bringing her January 6 claims. We have Tish James, the New York Attorney General, bringing civil fraud claims against Trump for the non-fraud of borrowing money from sophisticated banks and paying these banks back with interest, and somehow that's fraud. This is lawfare by Democrats, and you ask how this ends. This will end with the Supreme Court at some point, and the Supreme Court will take Donald Trump's side in all of these cases, I assure you. But the problem is they won't be able to get to these cases before November 7th, 2024. So how this ends is the American people stands up to this lawfare and this weaponization of our law enforcement and intel agencies and says, you know what, we're not going to let a DC prosecutor and a DC judge and a 95% Democrat DC jury, 99% Trump deranged DC jury, pick our next president. We, the people, get to pick our president. And that's how the American people can take the most forceful stand against this.
All right, so let's go down this a little bit further. Our average viewer listener right now is kind of wondering, okay, I can vote, but what else can I do here? I mean, what really are your expectations as to what's going to happen? You've alluded to it, but just hit on what are the expectations and what are your hopes that what's going to happen? What are your expectations? And what can people do right now to engage in whatever way that they can?
So I would say this, there is no chance that President Trump is going to get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. You have this Garland special counsel, Jack Smith, who has a track record of being a partisan hack, a lawless partisan hack. You have this Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, in D.C., who is a leftist. She was a former public defender, but apparently she only cares about people in D.C. who carjack, rob places, and murder people, because she has shown with January 6th that she is the most harsh. She's one of the most harsh judges of them all for the January 6th protesters. And you're going to have a D.C. jury that's 95% Democrat and 99% Trump deranged. And so there's no chance that Trump's going to get a fair trial in D.C. He will be found guilty. It's lawless. The judge will convict him. The D.C. Circuit will almost certainly affirm the conviction, because Obama transformed the D.C. Circuit to all these left-wing radical judges. And so this is going to have to be resolved legally by the Supreme Court. There is no doubt in my mind the Supreme Court will reverse this criminal conviction, all of these criminal convictions, because they're lawless. But again, we have something between now and the Supreme Court, and that's called the 2024 presidential election. And so the American people need to register to vote. They need to make sure their friends and family members are registered to vote. They need to make sure that they're voting. In the meantime, House Republicans need to step up their game. This is lawfare by Democrats. It's a zero-sum game. When Democrats are on offense, which they have been since August, since the Mar-a-Lago raid a year ago, that means they're not on defense. And so House Republicans need to put these people on defense. They need to start having oversight hearings. They need to start subpoenaing witnesses and documents. They need to open an impeachment inquiry against President Biden for his clear corruption. They need to open an impeachment inquiry against Attorney General Merrick Garland for his clear cover-up of his boss's corruption. Republicans need to get tougher now. They need to start taking off the gloves and punching back.
Well, I think they are in process of that, but I agree it needs they need to step up the game. So real quickly, because I want to switch gears in the last couple of minutes we have to the Devon Archer testimony, but you do not see anything that's happening now to Trump, because people ask me this all the time. Is any of this going to impact his run for president?
I think it's going to put him back in the White House, because I think the Alvin Bragg indictment won Trump the nomination. I think the first Jack Smith indictment put him into contention strongly with Biden. I think the second Jack Smith indictment is going to help Trump win comfortably by like maybe 2 or 3 percentage points of each indictment. On top of that, I think the American people, if you look at the polling, they see this for what it is. This is political lawfare to take out President Trump, because Democrats fear that he'll beat President Biden or Governor Newsom on November 7th, 2024.
Okay. All right. Well, let me switch gears if I can real quickly. Just 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes to go. The testimony of Devon Archer, former business partner of Hunter Biden. What's your take on that?
I think that Devon Archer's testimony is devastating for President Biden, because it shows that President Biden was absolutely involved in the Biden crime family's foreign bribery and corruption schemes, their business. And President Biden lied about this repeatedly to the American people. This is impeachable conduct by Joe Biden, and House Republicans should move forward with impeachment. A lot of the American people are not hearing about this because the mainstream, meaning liberal media, is not reporting this. But an impeachment inquiry would force the mainstream media to report on Joe Biden's obvious corruption. This is so much bigger than Trump or Biden. You cannot have a president of the United States who is compromised by foreign bribes and other corruption. It leads to very bad bad things in this country. Joe Biden has taken tens of millions of dollars. Joe Biden and his family have taken tens of millions of dollars from Ukraine and China. Those are the two biggest trouble spots in the world right now, with Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan. And when you have a weak, compromised president, our enemies exploit it like Russia is doing in Ukraine right now.
Well, it sounds like you would disagree with the Democrats who are saying this whole testimony was a nothing burger.
A nothing burger that then Vice President Joe Biden participated with 20 phone calls with his 50-year-old corrupt drug addict son's foreign business dealings, lied about it, went to meetings, went to dinners. There's evidence that the Bidens took $3.5 million from the Moscow oligarch, tens of millions of dollars from China, $10 million from Burisma, foreign bribe where Biden threatened to cut off $1 billion in U.S.
Mike,
aid.
we're going to have to leave it there.
Yeah. Thank you
Listen,
for having
I
me
can't
on.
thank you enough.
Thank you for
Mike,
having
it's
me
great
on.
to have you. Thanks for your work at Article 3 Project. Keep it up. All right, friends, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us. Keep the torch ablaze, and we'll be back tomorrow with more on Washington Watch. Have a great evening.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins is brought to you by Family Research Council and is entirely listener-supported. Portions of the show discussing candidates are brought to you by Family Research Council Action. For more information on anything you've heard today, or to find out how you can partner with us in our ongoing efforts to promote faith, family, and freedom, visit TonyPerkins.com. Also, to leave a comment about Washington Watch, call our watch line at 1-866-372-7234. That's 1-866-372-7234.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
Do you remember I'd ask you a question and you take a second, process the question. You'd ask me a question, I'm like, boom. But then what would often happen is I'd have to come back and I'd have to say, hey, I don't know if I really actually felt that way in that moment.
Yeah. Eric the Addisons, weekday afternoons at 2 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News. I'm Robert Thornton. Former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty today to trying to overturn the results of his 2020 presidential election loss, answering for the first time to federal charges. Trump appeared before a magistrate judge in Washington's federal courthouse 2 days after being indicted on 4 felony counts by Biden Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith. Go to AFN.net for more. Some GOP presidential candidates haven't yet met polling and fundraising thresholds for the first debate of the 2024 cycle. And now the qualifications for making it to the second one will even be higher. To get to the second debate in late September, candidates will need at least 3% in 2 national polls, or will need 3% in 1 national poll, as well as 2 polls from 4 of the early voting states. A person familiar with the plan told the Associated Press yesterday. AM radio seems to be going the way of the rotary phone, cassettes, and overhead projectors, but AFN Steve Jordahl reports national religious broadcasters are involved in an effort to save it.
Yeah, let's say all over America, all over Canada, that's really great. Here's, I think, one of the most typical ones by the Beatles. Guys and gals, dig.
AM radio was the soundtrack to many baby boomers' lives, but electric car makers are talking about ditching the band on their tech-heavy dashboards. Noelle Garnier of National Religious Broadcasters says automakers are getting greedy.
I think that this is a matter of automakers eager to monetize what's in the dashboard.
She says NRB has more than 120 AM stations as members and hundreds more that are affiliated with its network.
AM radio usage has dwindled. Fewer people are listening to AM than back in the day, of course. But the truth is, there are many parts of this country that still utilize AM radio very heavily.
Senators Ed Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Texas Republican Ted Cruz are doing their best to save AM radio. They've introduced the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act, which would require automakers to offer it free of charge in their new cars and trucks.
Garnier says it's an important piece of legislation.
Call your representatives, both in the House and the Senate, and encourage them to co-sponsor the AM Radio for Every Vehicle app.
Because AM radio is also the soundtrack of a lot of people's spiritual lives as well.
When I became a child of God, my relationship with God was established, and 1,000 or 10 million angels and all the people in the world could go and try to convince God that I shouldn't be saved. It wouldn't change the fact.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The U.S. can help bring the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria to a halt, but as AFN's Charlie Butts reports, immediate steps need to be taken.
AFN has repeatedly run stories about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, yet the killings have not abated. Judge Saul of Equipping the Persecuted agrees.
In 2022, 90% of all Christian persecution deaths happened in Nigeria.
It's a matter of Muslim terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and Fulani herdsmen raiding predominantly Christian villages, kidnapping women and girls, and killing the rest.
This is radical Islam asserting its dominance over Nigeria, and what they are doing is systematically taking over the country little bit by little bit, going from north to south.
Christians must convert to Islam or die. In America, we turn often to the government for solutions. But in Nigeria,
the government isn't doing anything about it. In fact, we have documented cases that the government has been complicit in these killings, where literally the military is ordered to look the other way as attacks are happening.
Saul is urging Americans to pray for their brothers and sisters in Nigeria and to encourage their elected representatives in Washington to take action to halt all aid to the country until Nigeria takes firm action against the terrorist groups. Nigerian Christians also need aid on the ground, not just to fend off the attacks, but to help restore and uplift victims post-attacks. I'm Charlie Butts.
That'll do it for this hour's news. We do thank you for listening. You can go to afn.net. That's afn.net to see more. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
Jenna Ellis in the morning.
You need to be very concerned about what your children are being exposed to if they go to a public school or even if they go to a Christian school. Parents are not just allowed, they have a constitutionally protected fundamental right that is God-given to direct the education, well-being, and faith options of their children.
Jenna Ellis in the morning. Weekdays at 7 Central on American Family Radio.
Darkness is not an affirmative force. It simply reoccupies the space vacated by the light.
This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
It should be uncomfortable for a believer to live as a hypocrite.
Delivering people out of the bondage of mainstream media and the philosophies of this world.
God has called you and me to be his ambassadors, even in this dark moment. Let's not miss our moment.
And now, the Hamilton Corner.
You know, the Bible has a lot to say about citizenship, and we're going to talk on this edition of the program about the citizenship and the stewardship related to voting. Hi, Alex McFarland. Very honored to be sitting in for attorney, pastor, cultural commentator Abe Hamilton. And today we've got a very special guest, Debbie Wuthnow of iVoter Guide, and we'll bring her on in just a moment. We're going to talk about stewardship as it relates to elections and being informed and voting. And I recently wrote an article about God or patriotism, ? Because every now and then I'll have even pastors and Christian leaders come up to me and I'm sure their heart is rightly intended, but I think they're mistaken. But pastors will say to me, Alex, we're called to make disciples, not Americans. Had a pastor literally say that to me. And he'll say, Alex, you talk about restoring America, but as a Christian, my home is heaven, and evil men will wax worse and worse, and the implication is just let the country implode. Well, 1,600 years ago, St. Augustine, he lived 354 to 430, Augustine basically said, until we are in the city of God, we have a responsibility to the city of man. And I would submit that it is in the best interest for a lot of reasons. We are to promote righteousness. We are to be salt and light. And we are to be a preservative force in the culture. But just think pragmatically, folks. While the country is in trouble and morally, economically, socially, we're just kind of unraveling. We've got really a crisis of integrity among our leaders in Washington. Look, this is where we're going to live. As a born-again believer, I get it. My home is in heaven. Being with the Lord, that's my ultimate destiny. But until we get there, I think it's only rational to want this to be a safe, stable, prosperous, free, lawful, constitutional America. And so we have recourse and we have obligation. We vote. We're informed. We influence others. And it is in our best interest to send people into the halls of leadership who are principled, moral people. Well, we're going to talk about that and a lot of things, artificial intelligence, how that might bode for upcoming elections. And I'm very honored, just grateful to God for having with us now Debbie Wuthnow of iVoter Guide. And we're going to talk about these things and a lot of things. But Debbie, thank you for making time to be with us on the American Family Radio Network.
It is my pleasure. Love American Family Association.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, tell us about yourself. I've got a lot of questions, but tell us about iVoter Guide and just what all you do, and a little bit about how the Lord brought you to this point in your journey.
Oh, it's been a God adventure. I'm the president of iVoter Guide. I have a background in computer science, but I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, just raising my kids. And it was when I was asking God what he wanted me to do with my empty nest that he opened the door of opportunity, and my Bible study teaching director's husband programmed iVoter Guide, and he needed somebody to help him technically. So I came on board in 2011. By 2015, 2016, I was running it, and the mission is really to educate Christians and all voters for information about their candidates. And it really is something God has woven together, placed it on my heart, because I'm the target audience. You know, there are so many Americans out there that love Jesus, love America, but they don't know who to vote for. And iVoter Guide is there as a tool.
So I was on a show during the 2020 election, and I was talking about issues because, you know, there's so many issues at play: religious freedom, freedom of expression. And certainly COVID showed us, and the quarantines showed us how at risk our freedoms can be. But